Have you ever been to the Galapagos Islands, or would you like to? Or do you even know where it is? It's about 1,000 kilometers west of mainland Ecuador. It is a territory or department of Ecuador. And the Galapagos Islands was one of the best places I've ever photographed. One of the main reasons I visited the Galapagos Islands is because of natural selection and Charles Darwin. Arguably, the Galapagos Islands could be the birthplace or the unofficial birthplace of natural selection. This travel photography video isn't about convincing you of evolution or natural selection, but it's just about my experience and how amazing it was. Before I actually decided to visit the Galapagos Islands, I didn't know too much about how to stay there or get there or where to go once I'm at the islands. I know there's a lot of expensive cruises in the Galapagos Islands and I couldn't afford it at that time, which was about 2016. So I decided to actually volunteer to start off my journey in the Galapagos Islands. I volunteered at a biological reserve. It was a lot of grunt work, planting tomatoes and chopping up a lot of blackberry plants with my machete. I was actually on San Cristobal Island and I was away from Puerto Baquerizo Moreno, quite a distance away. So I was away from the town, but I did get to stay out in the woods with some volunteers. I remember how hot it was in the Galapagos Islands, especially with it being along the equator. And the other thing was I have a sweet tooth and I couldn't buy chocolate or anything. There was no stores nearby. I only ate the food that was provided by the biological reserve. I remember one day lying down on my hammock during my break and there was no one around me, and out of the distance I see this new volunteer come. He was Korean, but he was living and working in New York City. One of the most interesting encounters I had with a person on the Galapagos Islands was he actually brought a Cliff Bar. I don't know if you guys know what a Cliff Bar is, but it's like a vegan hiking trail bar or power bar. He broke a piece off for me, and I have a sweet tooth, especially for chocolate. And I was like in bliss when I ate that. And that was my first time actually eating a Cliff Bar. And ever since then, when I go hiking or do some photography, I bring a Cliff Bar along with me. And go figure, this encounter in the Galapagos Islands introduced me to a Cliff Bar and one of the best desserts I've ever had in my life, just because I couldn't buy anything while I was on the biological reserve. After completing my 2-week volunteering project on San Cristobal, I got the opportunity to learn scuba diving. I did my open water and my advanced scuba diving certification on San Cristobal, and including Kicker Rock, which was just mind-blowing, doing a diving certification with sharks, sea lions, sea turtles, and a whole bunch of other marine life. And while I was still at the Galapagos Islands the first time in 2016, I was visiting the different tourist sites and the different islands and just going around and photographing. But one of the most important or the best times I had was just trying to live life like a local or like a Galapagonian. I think that's the word, or I think that's what the locals call themselves. Because the first time I was there, I had the opportunity to stay 3 months in the Galapagos Islands. Actually, exactly 86 days, just a few days short of 3 months and being fined for staying too long in Ecuador. One of the best things about being on the Galapagos Islands is you see the same people every day. And my hometown is Toronto, Canada, and usually when you walk by a stranger, you don't greet them or you don't even look at each other in the eye, which is kind of strange, I guess. I try to, but most people are just looking at their phone or trying to look away. But in the Galapagos and many parts of South America or Latin America, we always say like hi to each other or buenas, que más, como estás, and so forth. And it just gives a nice human touch when you're living or staying in a small little town or smaller city, or in this case, the Galapagos Islands. And the best part as a travel photographer being in the Galapagos Islands is photographing all the animals that are there. One of my favorite birds is the blue-footed booby. That indigo, cyan, or turquoise feet they have is just so beautiful and so vivid in real life. Like, you don't even need to Photoshop their feet or their color or increase the saturation. It's just one beautiful bird to see. They do look a little bit funny sometimes, their head, or when they're doing their mating dance. Some people consider it a little bit clownish, I guess, but it's just amazing to watch a blue-footed booby fly around fish. Or the best part is when they're actually on land and walking around, then you get to see their feet. Of course, I had the opportunity to photograph giant tortoises, sea lions, and then of course we need to go underwater and photograph some of the sea turtles, sharks, sea lions. I even had an opportunity to see a mola mola or a sunfish. I didn't even know a sunfish even existed until I was in the Galapagos Islands. And while I was visiting Kicker Rock, I was also very fortunate to see a super pod of dolphins. Out in the horizon, there was about like 1 or 200 dolphins, I swear. And I'm forever grateful I had the opportunity to volunteer, do my scuba diving, photograph people and animals. I made some friends in the Galapagos Islands since I was there for quite some time. And of course, I did return to the Galapagos Islands. If you've already been to the Galapagos Islands or you plan to, I highly recommend watching the documentary When Satan Visits Eden. It's about Europeans that settled on Floriana Island in the 1930s, and some of them ended up killing each other or go missing. It's interesting because some of the relatives of the original settlers on Floriana Island still live on Floriana Island. It's actually a population of about 150. Could be a little bit more now. I haven't checked the population size, but I highly recommend watching When Satan Visits Eden. It's a very interesting documentary about the Galapagos Islands. And going back to visiting the Galapagos Islands, if it's your first time, it does seem very pricey, but it's actually pretty affordable compared to, let's say, visiting Paris, London, or New York City. You just have to visit the Galapagos Islands on a budget. For example, you can stay at like Casa Particulars or small hotels or hostels for about like $20 to $30 a night. You don't need to book cruises in advance. If you visit the Galapagos Islands, you can book last minute cruises, and the cruises are about like 50%, some are even 70% off. So I will leave a link in the description about visiting the Galapagos Islands on a budget. And what about you guys? Are you guys planning to visit the Galapagos Islands, or have you had a travel or photography experience just change your life? Make sure to leave a comment down below. And as always, live easy, sleep breezy, and stay lovely.